What is going on, everyone, and welcome back to another video on the channel. Well, you know we're back with some weekly Solana coverage, as we've been covering this thing 2 to 3 times every single week for the last 2 to 3 years straight. Now, in today's video, I wanted to talk a little bit about less of the technical analysis side and a little bit more from a fundamental ecosystemic side, okay? Now, what do I mean by that, right? Well, it's a bit of a lesson that I learned in the last bull run that I wish I would have knew, and when looking back, when we went to the bear market, I'm like, I feel like I made a mistake there, and I don't want to make that mistake again. Okay, and that's kind of what I wanted to share with you today, especially while we are waiting for Solana to make this move. Now, let's kind of do a quick little TA sesh, 1 minute, 2 minutes max, talk about what is happening there so you do stay up to date, but then let's kind of go towards the end of the video talking about the ecosystem side. Okay, so looking at Solana here really quickly, you guys know that we are watching very closely to see if we will get this loss of support here. I've told you that if we do lose support, there's a very, very high likelihood that Solana sees $85. Maybe we lose support, back test, and then go down to it, but there's a very, again, high chance that will come back down to eat this wick and come back towards $85. Now, we don't have the daily close yet below this level, and we also don't have the weekly close. The weekly close happens tonight, and so personally, you never know. We might rebound back above this thing, kind of similar to what we did here. There is no guarantee that this little breakout that we're seeing right now is the move itself, and so of course, because of that, I'm not going to make a move just yet. Now, one way or another, if this thing does pull back out of this zone, I am getting even more optimistic because we're getting this clear drive of bullish divergence on the daily charts. The chart prime oscillator has now cleared straight below the 0% threshold, which is amazing. Now we're in bullish territory down here, and considering the fact that we're now putting in these lower lows on all accounts of these recent moves, but still higher lows, we will get bullish divergence, which is a sign to show that the likelihood is here, even if we do pull back, we're likely going to get a bounce and continuation at some given point. So this is still looking bullish to me. There is still a chance that I will short this thing if we do lose this ascending channel and still head towards the downside, but it would be a very, very small leverage trade, nothing crazy, nothing big at all. Now, I would do that over on Margex. Make sure, again, that if you do want to get into your trading, if you want to use some cross margin or isolated margin, very easy, very simple. No KYC necessary. You don't need a VPN to even use the platform. It's very simple, very easy to use. And as I mentioned before, I do pretty much all of my trading on this thing, especially now that they do have all of these advanced features on their charting. I can do it all in one place, so go check that out. Of course, I am an affiliate of theirs, so you can use my affiliate link down below. But with that in mind, like I said, I'm not doing too much. I'm just kind of relaxing at this given point, letting this play out. And then over the next day or two, I'm then going to decide, okay, what's the next move for me? So make sure you stay tuned for that video. But again, let's kind of step away a bit from the charts and talk about an ecosystem perspective. So in 2021, whenever L1s really started to catch momentum, we're talking BNB, we're talking, of course, Ethereum, we're talking Solana, we're talking ADA Cardano, kind of, you'll understand why in a second. What we noticed was that the L1 tokens themselves were doing extremely well, right? I mean, it was no shocker, no surprise to anyone. We saw Solana up to $250. We saw ADA going up towards $3. We saw BNB flying up towards $500, right? All of these things were happening, and it was absolutely amazing. But what we hadn't really realized at the time was the true reason why that was happening. Everyone was talking about the smart contracts and the dApps and the fact that the ecosystems were growing, and yes, that was great, but at the end of the day, the reason why this was so important was because those platforms were going to eventually lead to be the foundation for entire evolutions and revolutions within the world of crypto. Whenever you see something like Solana, for example, which is now providing so much infrastructure for all of these gaming cryptos, it's the foundation for these gaming cryptos to come building on it. And so that's the reason why these L1s are so important. It's not just because their prices were doing well, it's because their technology was going to lead to the future of crypto continuing, right? And so with that in mind, I just at the time didn't realize like, oh, there's a lot of opportunity within the ecosystem. What I did a lot of was I like Solana. I like the Solana blockchain, even though back then it was absolutely horrible. So I'm going to buy Solana tokens and hold them and stake them. And although that was great, although that was good, that was not the most efficient way that I could capitalize on Solana. I didn't realize that I don't need to only focus on the top one and marry that sold token. The Solana ecosystem itself was also going to be riddled and full of absolutely amazing cryptos that if I would have invested into them back then, let's say like Ethereum is probably a better example. Had I invested in some of those new cryptos, those new meme coins or altcoins or whatever, microcaps, utility coins that were on the blockchain of my favorite crypto, like a Solana or like an ETH or like a BNB, etc., I probably would have done a lot better. Now, of course, BNB, like everyone was buying BSC tokens back then, so I guess that's a good example, but people weren't really looking at an Ethereum in the same light. They weren't looking at Solana in the same light. ADA Cardano really didn't release that ability to have good, cryptos launching on it until, later in the year, but still, you understand what I'm saying, right? I married the big token. I married that top 10 token, and I never really dived in and went into the ecosystem enough. I didn't go into their own ecosystems and the cryptos on their ecosystems because there were a ton of them that were there that were full of gains, and I wish I would have done it. Now, a recent example of this is a crypto named Myro, okay? Myro launched on the Solana blockchain. Now, we actually did call Myro over in HG Access pretty early on. We were a little late to the party, but it was pretty early on. We were talking about this narrative that Solana ecosystem tokens were going to do well, and I kind of called out Myro. I said, I think Myro is a great example of one that's probably going to do well. We talked about that thing at 0.024, so right around 2.5 cents. And what you can see is that was right around roughly right here, right? And from there, after that, I mean, this thing just saw freaking crazy growth. I mean, from the point that I called that thing, it went up 390%. First of all, go check out HG Access because calls like this are happening a lot down there. Anyway, the point of this is just to go ahead and say that was from December 28th to, what's this? Let's just go ahead and say January 2nd, January 3rd. And if we compare what Solana has done since then, from December, let's go ahead and say December 28th to just now, it's not done much, right? And so in these times in which we see these macro cryptos, that big ones, the top L1s slowing down, cooling off, just go on these big runs, look for that liquidity to funnel down into their ecosystem and try to find the winners in the ecosystem. Because if you do, you can take the gains that you made from your L1 and funnel that into even more gains in the ecosystem. Now, trust me, I'm not telling you to take 100% of your holding of Solana and go put it in something like Myro. That's a bad idea. But if your position, for example, goes up 2 or 3 or 4x, like Solana's easily has, maybe take 10 or 15% of that, which is all profit, and then go in and inject that into the ecosystem and find your winners. They won't all be winners. Some of them won't be winners. We've talked about some that haven't been winners, but the ones that are winners typically end up being winners through possibly the entire bull market, especially if they introduce utility, right? And so with that in mind, that's the reason why we were talking about it over in HG Access, because we saw that liquidity slowing down in Solana, but then funneling and trickling down into the ecosystem. And that's how we find these types of winners. And that's how I will continue to do it, because it's all about the liquidity. So I wanted to make this video just to tell you, like, don't get married. Just because you like the Solana token, you probably will like the cryptos on Solana even more. So you don't have to get married to those big cryptos. It's okay to sell some of that, especially if it's just profit, and move that down into the ecosystem and see if you can compound that growth. And so with that in mind, I hope you guys do enjoy these types of videos where we're just sitting back talking. It's a Sunday, not that much is going on. So I wanted to just share that little lesson that I learned with, from 2021 with you, and hope, of course, maybe you can apply it going into this bull market. So with that said, I will see you all later on with another one. Make sure again that you do go over to Margex if you are doing any trading whatsoever. They are the best trading platform, at least in the world, in my opinion. And so with that in mind, of course, I will let you guys know even more when more deals and deposit bonuses and things like that do come out, because they do have some really good ones. But with that said, of course, I hope you guys have an absolutely amazing day, and well, I will see you all next time. Peace out, everybody.